Hey everyone, this is August Sandberg of 59 North presenting the QUARTERDECK Sailing Podcast. This is where we allow ourselves to dive deep into the esoteric details of sailing and seamanship and discuss things in the sailing world that interests or concerns us. We have set up a watch rotation for this podcast and our other podcasts on the wind so that whenever one is on a break, the other one keeps the ship sailing. So we'll be publishing a podcast every Tuesday all the time, so make sure to subscribe to both of them. The QUARTERDECK is our membership website and 59 North's home port on the internet. We post videos and articles and host live streams and all sorts of fun on there, and we have a very knowledgeable community that you can be a part of. It is also the easiest way to interact with me and Andy directly. Go to 59-north.com/QUARTERDECK and sign up today for a 2-week free trial. Becoming a QUARTERDECK member is also a great way to support what we do so that we can continue to make free sailing content such as this very podcast. So a huge thanks to everyone who signs up. All right, please enjoy this week's episode and hold fast. How are you doing today, Andy? You're looking very cozy there in your little bookshelf corner.
I am extremely cozy. Alex and Adam are outside motoring us around on the sun just came up. It's a beautiful morning. It's been like absolutely perfect weather in Portugal. It's like goes down to maybe like 10 degrees at night. So just enough that we turn the heat on at night to get a little cozy in our bunks. And then it's like 20 degrees in the daytime. So it's like shorts and t-shirts. It's gorgeous. I love Portugal. I said we're going to move here and make a 59 North headquarters down here now.
Nice. You're a proper admiral now, Andy. You're sitting down there and you're with your glasses and your gear while having the crew moving the boat around. Oh, there's the coffee.
I mean,
cheers, mate.
I did cast off the dock lines on the dock and quick jump back on the boat. So I handled some lines today.
You touched the line. Oh man!
I touched the line. Yeah, believe it or not.
So your hands all right?
They're a little sore. I'll have to put my moisturizing gloves on tonight.
Very nice. Yeah, this is this is very cool. You guys just finished up an offshore training trip around from Lagos and back to Lagos, I believe, and you came back just a couple of days ago.
Yeah, we sailed a 450-mile triangle, which in delightful weather, it was perfect. It was really fun. And got back, I guess the crew left on Friday. Yeah, it's only a couple days ago. And yesterday, actually, me, Alex, Adam, and Mia recorded a debrief podcast about Falken's entire season. Because Falken has sailed 16,100 and something miles in 2023. So the four of us sat down and just kind of recapped how that all evolved from the boat sinking at the sea trial, literally, to now being here and feeling pretty relaxed.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Congrats on that again. That is quite an achievement. How is Falken doing now after the season? She's holding up well.
Yeah, she's in better shape now than she was before the season started. Because I mean, the theme from the debrief was like no boat's ever ready to leave on a passage, but I'm not sure. I mean, Falken was really not ready, but like refit time was up and she was good, and Adam continued tinkering all summer long, so he gets the credit for getting us through the 16,000 miles, and now, like I said, the boat's better than it was. So now we're finally like in the improvement stage instead of the chasing gremlins stage. Like I think we've found most of the gremlins.
Very cool. Touch wood there. And
yeah. So we're going to get hauled out now to get bottom paint and put the new rudder bearing, replace the rudder bearing, which we didn't have time to do at the refit because it didn't arrive in time. So that's happening now.
Right. And your rudder is still A-OK, even after having sailed around the Iberian Peninsula?
Yes, no orca sightings, no orca scares, and yeah, knock on wood, we've got 7 more miles to go before we get lifted out.
Knock on wood, indeed. Yeah, that's weird. That used to be like a really cool thing that you would hope to see when you went offshore sailing, but now it's That's not so much. It's a new reality. I guess that maybe to bring people up to speed here, it's probably something that most of our audience will have heard about by now. It's one of those stories that have made it out of the sailing bubble and into the mainstream media, but it's orcas have started attacking sailboats along the Iberian coast, especially in the Strait of Gibraltar and the Gulf of Cadiz, targeting rudders and often leaving boats with like just rudders bent in every kind of weird direction and sometimes even sinking. So it was a little with you guys going out for this trip, there was a couple of new things that you had to think about that we don't normally do on our safety briefings and stuff.
Well, not only that, but like, so it's one pod of orcas that migrates more or less between Gibraltar and La Coruña, which is the northwest corner of Spain, like the end of the Bay of Biscay. And you know, I've said how much I love Portugal and Lagos and stuff. It's become a base over the years, but we really haven't. Like, I personally haven't been to Lagos since 2018, January 19th. It's been almost 5 years. And, like, Falken was in and out of Lagos, I think, 3 or 4 times this year. So, like, of all the years for us to be coming back here, it's like now we've got this Orca issue to deal with. And, yeah, like you say, one more risk management piece of the puzzle that you just think, are you serious? Like, I have to actually think about this now? Like, come on.
Yeah, it's weird. It is. I gotta say, even though how frustrating and you know scary it is, it's also a little bit kind of. I kind of like these things a little bit when kind of Mother Nature strikes back a little bit. It feels kind of. I like those little reminders, just like big storms and stuff. Also, I kind of like them a little bit in that. You know, mankind, we're not the masters of nature that we believe we are. It's kind of cool to have these things.
It keeps you humble. It reminds you. I mean, one thing I'll say today, like, I brought an emergency steering drogue to Falken for this trip, which we'll cover in a little bit of detail. But like, we should have had that on the boat before, because it's not only orcas that can cause rudder damage. So that's one of the side effects of this. It's actually making us think about, okay, what happens if you lose steerage, regardless of what the cause is. But I think today so that, like, it was the thing that came out of it. But yeah, I like it. I like it too. It keeps you humble.
Yeah. So what kind of, how did you approach this then? Because we have been talking about this before, and we've actually changed our schedule up a little bit to kind of avoid this in the past, which is you know the best kind of prevention, right? You just don't go where the mean orcas are. But
yeah, it's like weather. You know, you don't sail during hurricane season. Well, don't sail during orca season. That's the simplest solution. And this conversation we're having now evolved out of an off the record conversation we had as a team, like a month ago, maybe. It's like, what are we actually going to do about this as a business? What is our policy on this? Because we need to think about it. Like, we need to think. Not only do we need to think about it, but we also, you know, we strive to set the example for what is sort of the right way to do things, or what we think is a good way to do things. And that, you know, this actually came up because I was texting Adam, and I said, "Hey, Adam." He was on the boat in Lagos. I was like, "Can you please get a supply of firecrackers that we can have on the boat for orca defense?" And I'm just thinking, yeah, great, he'll do that, because that's like what the fishermen do, and what seems to be effective. And Adam's a pretty big environmentalist, and is a vegan, was a vegan for a while, and it's just like, he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I was like, wait, what do you mean you're not going to do that? I was like, can we at least talk about this? And then that's what's evolved out of this, and then we kind of decided, like, okay, maybe the fireworks thing isn't the best example to set, even if it is effective, because you're working with an endangered species, and at the very least, the fireworks are illegal in Portugal. So, do we really want to set that example? It's like, maybe not.
Yeah.
And then this conversation went from there, and it actually we spent enough time talking about it that we're like, wait, shit, we should share these thoughts.
Totally. Yeah, it was a very interesting debate we had there, trying to, because yeah, you're trying to balance the because we need to protect the boat, protect the business, but also yeah, the endangered species, and also set an example for this. So yeah, it's very very complicated. I am curious. We had that chat. Yeah, I guess as you said a month ago. I never figured out what you guys actually did in the end. Did you get the firecrackers or not?
We did not get the firecrackers. The basic plan, I was like, okay, Adam, like if we're not going to do the firecrackers, like what are our options? And he kind of said, well, one, don't go at all, like just cancel the trip, which is effectively what we did we were supposed to have sailed into Mallorca and back. In the Mediterranean. This was like the big, we're going to go to the Med for the first time ever in 59 North. And then all the Orca activity was clustered around Gibraltar. And I was like, several months ago, I was like, you know what? That's stupid. Let's not do that. Let's not risk that just to go in and come back out again. So we kind of did option one, just didn't go. We canceled that trip already. And I forget what the other couple options were. Some of those like sonar pinger type things, which we shared links about that nobody knows if they work or not.
Yeah, battery-powered pingers. I do think they do work on like against dolphins and smaller stations, I think. But yeah, not nearly as effective.
But the conclusion was we're just going to be very mindful of the of what the activity is, because there's a lot of websites now that track it in pretty much real time. There's a Facebook group, and there's the Orca Iberia like organization, and everything seemed to be clustered around Gibraltar, and Lagos is several hundred miles west of Gibraltar. So we figured, all right, well, let's just stay west. And the thing actually that happened, the way the weather shaped up for this sail training trip, we had a big ridge of high pressure like that extended sort of from like, it went from like the tip of Cape St. Vincent, so the southwestern tip of Portugal, stretched like down between the Azores and Madeira, and it just sat there. So my plan was, all right, well, we'll just go west out into the Atlantic and make a big loop out there. Well, there wasn't any wind there. So to find the wind to sail in, we actually had to sail east towards Gibraltar and then loop down to the south and around. But we were still several hundred miles from the hotspot areas. And then at what we know of at the time, the sort of consensus was if you see orcas, drop the sails, stop the boat, let go of the rudder, and just wait till they get bored. The idea that like if you play tug of war with a dog and a rope, the more you tug on that rope, the more excited the dog gets. So you let the whales play with the rudder, and when nobody plays back, they just get bored. Now, I have actually information since that. That was what we did. To answer your question, that's what we did on this sail training trip. Excuse me. And the avoidance thing worked. We never saw any orcas. However, yesterday, we serendipitously bumped into this couple, Rob and Jules, who actually we got to know because they were running Tindra, the Swan 59 that became Ice Bear.
Holy shit.
Under her previous owner. And they were involved in getting the boat ready for us when we bought it. Rob flew down to Antigua, had the boat launched, and actually kind of bring this full circle. That's the last time I was in Lagos, when Mia and I sailed Eastbjorn from here across the Atlantic, and Ice Bear was parked at the dock at Antigua Yacht Club waiting for us to take over, thanks to Rob, who put her there. So he lives in Lagos and has a sailing school here called RU Sailing. They teach RYA stuff, so everything from competent crew up to Yachtmaster Oceans. So shout out to them. If anybody needs their RYA stuff, come to Portugal and do it with Rob. It's a great place.
Hey, but anyway, I actually talked to him about doing my Yachtmaster down there. That's right. Yeah. Oh, very cool.
There you go.
Very cool.
So anyway, he came by the boat yesterday to see Falken and just say hello. And they own two boats and manage a third boat here. And they've had orca problems because this is their backyard. One of the boat they managed was attacked right off of Sawgrass here, which is where we anchored the other day. Is right off of Cape St. Vincent. This was earlier in the season, and damaged the rudder. And they did everything you're supposed to do. They went like way inshore. They dropped the sails. They stopped, and still the tip of the rudder was snapped off. And what Rob said, he also said the fireworks thing is a thing, and they actually had fireworks on board. And he said, kind of like you said, he's like, you have this conflict where you are responsible for the boat and the people on the boat, and you have to defend the boat. And you jokingly put a link to like an old harpoon gun from the Norwegian whaling industry, like we could get one of these, and like obviously that's not what we're gonna do, but like it does raise a really interesting question. Where do you, like, so far no orcas, and this was Adam's argument, there's never been any damage to humanity. It's only been to property, right? The orcas are even the boats that sank. It's not like the people are getting rescued in a life raft or whatever, and then they're being attacked. Like that's not at all what's happening. So, but still, as the skipper, you have that responsibility for the boat and the people on it. So it's a really tough question.
It's a really tough question, and I've been thinking a lot about this with the when we've been going to Svalbard and carrying guns for polar bear protection, in kind of a similar situation in that we are the invasive species in a way. We're getting out there in the animals' face, and then if they dare bother us or inconvenience us, then we shoot them. It's a bit. I've kind of felt like if for Svalbard, if you're actually attacked by a polar bear, that is starved because we ruined the climate up there, and then we come and have a look at it because we think it's cool, and it attacks us because it's starving to death, and then we shoot it in the face. It's like I actually think that the bear is the good guy in that scenario. It should have
100% agree. 100% agree.
So
also, you're sailing to Svalbard, but you can watch them from the dinghy. You can sit in your boat at a safe distance. I know polar bears can swim, but they're you're pretty safe on the boat. If you go ashore, like it's a little different. We're not trying to go swim with the orcas here. This is a slightly different scenario.
Yeah, it's true. No, so I think
although you used to do just that. Some of those businesses in Norway do that, like dive with the orcas in Lofoten and stuff up in Norway. Like that's a thing.
Absolutely. I've done that for months and months of my life. I used to skipper these freediving trips up in Tromsø with Arctic freediving, they were called, and we would go out and people would freedive with orcas in the Arctic in the winter. And I'd done that for, as I said, months and months. Had looking for orcas, finding orcas, dumping people in the water next to the orcas, and like that's what we did. And so I don't like people say that people talk about why the orcas are doing this, and some people say that they're like this revengeful, or they have some kind of grudge against humanity. I don't think that's true at all, because all the orca human interactions that I've seen in the water, which are a lot, the orcas they're very curious and playful, but they really go out of their way to avoid hitting or injuring humans in the water, and it's a very they're very kind animals. So it's
I agree with you on that. So with the conversation with Rob, it was really nice. The hard thing is, like, when you're planning this from a distance, getting good information, because like you have the sightings and stuff on these Facebook groups, but then the people that are talking about this stuff, nobody knows. There's no consensus, and also it's all from a distance. So like speaking to Rob yesterday, it was really nice. Okay, we have a guy that lives here that deals with this every day as part of his business, and he's been in these encounters. So basically, the latest consensus from the locals is now it's gone from stop the boat, don't do anything, be a sitting duck till they get bored, where now they want you to drop the sails or whatever, but you basically go at a 90-degree angle from where the pod came as fast as you can away from the pod. And what is happening is there's clear consensus that it's the juveniles that are causing the problems. And that the juveniles don't want to get separated from the adults. So if you remove the boat from the area where the pod is, ranging, then that solves the issue quicker than just staying there, and the juveniles are sort of empowered to have a play with the tug-of-war rope, so to speak. So that's
Right.
now the recent consensus is just evacuate the area as quickly as possible under any means at 90 degrees from where you saw the pod traveling, which is like exactly the opposite of what you've been told prior to that. So that was new
Yeah.
information I learned yesterday. And the other thing that was interesting, he said the boat that they managed was a X44 or something, and when it was damaged, the guy, somebody was holding onto the wheel, and when it was first attacked, the first hit was so hard that because the wheel was held, it basically wrecked all the linkages, the gearboxes and stuff that controlled the wheel. So like all the steering
shit.
cables, everything like just failed immediately. The autopilot still worked because it was attached to the quadrant, and the tip of the rudder was broken off. So basically, if you can think rudder construction has either a carbon, an aluminum, or a stainless shaft, like a rudder stock, with usually like aft leading stainless straps or whatever that creates the structure, and then it's sheathed in fiberglass and filled with foam. But usually the lower, say, 18 inches is just foam and fiberglass, where after the stock stops, and that gets broken off, and that kind of Rob actually thinks that like some people have gone and reinforced that area, but then you kind of want a fuse in the system, because if the rudder is too strong, it actually damages the rudder bearing, and that's how the boats are sinking, is when the rudder bearing gets dislodged from the hull, and that lets water in. So Rob's attitude is like, well, actually, maybe that lower tip of the rudder is good. Like, keep that as foam. It's easy to repair. He said it's not that big a deal. Friends of his have a sailing business in, I think in Morocco or somewhere. They have 5 boats, and he said they have 3 spare rudders on hand, and they've been just going through them. They like basically because they're right at Gibraltar. They get one gets damaged, they bring the boat in, stick a new rudder in it, take the other one out, fix it, and then it's just on this cycle. And it's just another thing that they have to deal with. It's like, okay, well,
That's crazy. That illustrates the magnitude of this. It's quite.
I had 2 theories about this. First of all, I contacted our insurance person, our guy, I forget what his name is, at Pantania, Sweden. And I was like, hey, with all this Orca stuff, like, if we get an incident, are we going to be covered? And he's like, yes. And then there was an article that was in, I think, Practical Boat Owner magazine, basically saying the same thing, that insurance companies are covering this. So my thought was, well, this can't be that pervasive. If insurance is covering it, like, how big of a risk is it if they're saying that we're going to cover it? Well, it turns out it's a thing. Down here, you go in the boatyard, and there's at any given time, there's always 3 or 4 boats that have the bottom of their rudders chopped off. And I guess the thing is the insurance is covering it, not because it's not a problem, but because it's a relatively inexpensive repair, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, unless the boat sinks. But that's rare.
Yeah.
So yeah, for the people that live and sail down here, it's just a fact of life now that they have to mitigate. And obviously, Rob's like, I'm not going to stop doing it, but he's like, you're always on the lookout, and it's just a thing that is a real disruptor to his business.
Yeah, it's crazy. I do remember, I think that was this summer, or when we talked about those trips that are going into the Med, there was like one incident reported every day.
Yeah.
Like every single day on average. Which
Yep.
is quite freaky, and it's that's been kind of worrying about this whole thing, is that it's getting more and more common, and it's also spreading like geographically, seems like, because these animals are very, they teach each other stuff, and they have these little cultures and tricks that they learn and do. And there was an attack by Shetland in the North Sea this summer as well, which had me quite concerned.
I know, that's the real problem, because like in one sense we just got lucky, because we're in an area now on this sail training trip where the orcas aren't here, so like that's the avoidance thing. But that's not out of anything we did. It's just like, with good luck, they're not here right now, so we can proceed. But and we're not going to be here for very long, because we're leaving in January to go to south and across Atlantic, and then it's not a problem. But if this starts to spread up to your backyard, like that's no thank you. Like, that sucks. just as we were talking about this, you know how like when you're the skipper on a boat and you're like down in your bunk and the motor's running and then the engine RPMs change and you're just like, what's going on? So the guy, they just slow down out there for some reason. I don't know why, and I'm just like, what's happening out there?
I could see your gaze going up their companionway there.
Yeah. So anyway,
yeah,
where were we?
With the orca attacks potentially spreading, and yeah, it is. That's so freaky about these really smart animals that they can learn and adapt to these new behaviors. It's not like spiders spin webs, and that's a pretty cool trick, but it's all instincts, all genetics. But these orcas, they just figure this things out and they show each other, and then it gets into their like group cultural behavior. It's very interesting. When I've been looking for orcas so much up in the Arctic, you get to know them pretty well, and it's funny how that whole mission was to look for orcas and to find orcas. That was like all we did, and that now, because in your situation, that's just completely switched. But you would know the individual pods, and you would try and look for those that ate herring, because those would be the best to dive with, and because you could get like the bait balls and stuff. It's really cool. But some of the pods that we knew only ate seals, and they would go by the coast and like hunt next to the coast, impossible or very difficult to dive with. And that was it's the same exact animal. It's genetically no difference, just two different pods. So that's just food culture. That's what it is. It is like very, very kind of strange to talk about animals in this way, and how they can change.
I love that. I think that's so cool. I mean, I just got done reading the new biography about Elon Musk, and there's a big thing about the future of AI in there. It's like, well, maybe we should just be worried about the whales.
Maybe. Yeah, what is that? The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where the dolphins turns out to be... Oh, I guess the second smartest, with the smartest ones being mice.
Mice.
I digress. So did you guys ever consider any of these, the Facebook groups and the forums are all full of these kind of crazy superstitious tricks. There's pouring chili powder into the water. There is the Bluetooth speaker. There is a Spotify playlist with metal for orcas getting passed around in these Facebook groups, with just like really gnarly metal that you're supposed to stick your speaker into the water and play this playlist. Did you guys explore any of those crazy things?
I love that metal for orcas. I'm gonna play that next time in the gym just for fun.
You'll hit some PRs playing that, I'm sure. Yeah.
No, we didn't. We just took the avoidance tactic, and then so our plan was avoidance number one. Follow at the time the stop the boat and just chill, and then we had the drogue on board for emergency steering if we actually did have damage that was caused by this. So that was our sort of 3-step process. What Rob does is he has the pingers, and he has them set. He said the problem with some people, they drag them just on a line, and they need to be weighted so that they're not on the surface, that they're below the surface. So he has these pretty substantial sort of softball, grapefruit-sized lead fishing weights, and he has one set at the height right at the tip of his rudder, so like pretty close to the back of the boat, and then he has another on like a 10-meter line that's set maybe 10 meters down that he drags behind the boat. He doesn't know if it works. That's the thing, because he hasn't had any encounters. He's also said that friends of his have used the pingers and saw orcas, and the orcas left, and he also has friends that used the pingers and saw the orcas, and the orcas attacked. So we don't have enough of a data set to draw any conclusions. Same thing with the metal. I'm sure the orca metal worked for some of them, but did it actually work, or was it just a coincidence? There's no causation correlation type of thing. I'm not sure that we'll ever have enough data to get significant conclusions from any of this. So
yeah, probably Probably not.
Same thing with the firecrackers. I mean, it's all just anecdotal. Like, it seems like the fireworks, like, maybe does work pretty effectively. You and I were talking, like, well, if it works, and if it's not actually harmful to the whales, what's the real problem here? Why are we worried about this? I happen to be in that camp, but I also don't want to be the person that is setting an example of something that's illegal. Like, until the culture agrees that that's okay, I don't think it's an option. It's not a legitimate option because we've decided as a culture that that's dangerous and bad for the whales. And I'm a huge animal lover. I don't want to. If it actually is a problem, I don't want to do that. I don't.
Yeah.
So I think we're sort of. This is like this is also fascinating because when has something like this just emerged out of nowhere? Like, how long we've been. I mean, I guess you have the Moby Dick, like this whale versus boat thing has been around for centuries in that sense. But like, that's not not really something you think about. But like, this is just a new thing that has just emerged and has become a huge part of the offshore sailing culture now.
Yeah, it's true. It's quite fascinating to me to be a part of it. And like you said, with the not being any data or any consensus really to support any of these things, it's like it could change too. Like it's the game could change for these orcas, that it could become just a completely different thing. I agree with you. I think I believe that the firecrackers are the way to go. And I think in so many things, when I'm kind of wondering about what to do out there on the ocean, I just just should look to the fishermen and just see what they do, because they have been out there they go out in all kinds of scenarios and all kinds of weather and everything, and they have been using these pingers for years and years to protect their gear from cetaceans. So I think they probably do work, but how much do they really inconvenience the orcas? Are they just like a little bit annoying? Or are they? I don't think they can be trouble. I mean, because these orcas are they're incredibly loud. Like they are, and these whales, their calls are so loud. I don't believe they have very, very sensible hearing in that they can actually hurt themselves. I was a part of a group that we did a little feasibility study on expanding the freediving to include sperm whales too. But they are so freaking loud that they can, if you get up close enough to them and they do a little sonar call at you, they can like knock your heartbeat out of rhythm. It's so yeah.
I've heard that. I was actually going to say that. I read somewhere that the sperm whales are the loudest of the whales, and that can actually cause damage. I mean, imagine you're this like talking about the intelligence of whales and stuff. Like you can hear. So if we use dolphins, you see all the time, right? Offshore, we had dolphins on this last trip, and you can, once you tune your hearing to it, if you're like inside the boat, you can hear the dolphins echoing through the hull of the boat, like pretty clearly. It's like very clear sound. But imagine you're like this intelligent alien underwater species, and you can just emit this pulse, and it can like knock someone's heartbeat out of rhythm. Like that's wild. That's like wild, just like from your head. Like just look at them and bam.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So,
but back to the fisherman thing. Like cynically, I mean, fishermen are just like raping and pillaging the ocean. Like, should we really be following their example? Like, the fishing industry have created the most efficient way to just remove all life from the sea as quickly as possible. Is that really whose example we want to follow? I mean, like, I kind of agree with you with the fireworks thing, but like at the same time, like, are we going to just let the fishermen decide what's best in this case? Like, that doesn't seem right either.
That is true. Yeah, not all fishermen's not all fishermen should be followed in that regard.
Well, so this also begs the question: you're Norwegian, and Norwegians still participate in whaling, commercial whaling, and like you can go to Tromsø and get a whale burger on the street. So,
yep.
Are you the right person to talk about this? I mean, how do you feel about that as a Norwegian? How do you feel about whaling? Like we're still doing this. I mean, culturally now we've kind of said that's no bueno, and yet you live in the country and participate in this like without shame.
That's right. Yeah, when I made my harpoon gun joke during our last meeting there, Adam said, "Hey August, your Norwegian is showing," which I guess is accurate. Yeah, it's true. Norway still does whaling in a very very monitored and controlled way. Only hunting minke whales, which are abundant. There's plenty of them, and I support it. I think it's great. I know that's a very unpopular opinion for many people, but I think that when you look at how we get our meat in the Western world, and with the factory farms and the so-called free-range chickens and all this horrible stuff, it's whaling in comparison to that. Whaling is just it's so nice, I think. I mean, if you compare the life of a chicken in a coop, that's I mean it's a hellish life, and then you're getting ground up in a mincer and served as chicken nuggets. If you compare that to a whale that's living free out in the ocean, having the time of its life, and then when it's lived 20 years, it gets a explosive harpoon in the face and dies instantly. I think that's a better thing. And yes, the whale might be smarter than the chicken. That's the big thing here. The baleen whales, I don't think they're that smart. They're not compared to the tooth whales like the orcas and the sperm whales and stuff. And you also gotta consider just the quantities here. How many chickens suffering and dying in a horrible hell it is worth the life of one minke whale. How many chickens do you have to torture and kill to get the same amount of meat that you would get out of one minke whale? And I would eat a whale burger with a better conscience than I would eat chicken nuggets.
I
Absolutely.
mean, that's a really compelling argument, and we're really delving into philosophy now, because as a culture we've decided that certain animals are intelligent enough to be spared food, to be spared use as food. But a chicken's a good example, but a cow's probably a better example intelligence-wise. Like, you can become friends with a cow, and yet you don't think twice when you eat a hamburger at McDonald's, and the cows live probably a more hellish life than a chicken if you think a cow is more intelligent than a chicken. So and then you get into there's plenty of minke whales where if it can be done sustainably. I mean, even go to fishing, farmed salmon. If anybody's ever seen a salmon farm and what they deal with, the genetic things, God. The lice, it's disgusting. It's horrible. So
it's absolutely terrible.
You're right, and most people don't think about that, and then culturally it's so easy that culturally we've just said that whales are off limits. It's kind of like taboo, it's become taboo, just like cannibalism almost. That's a bad comparison, but that's the next level. Okay, we just don't eat humans and we're not going to talk about it. Culturally, we've just said we're not hunting whales and we're not going to talk about it. But when you actually do talk about it, as most things, it becomes a lot more nuanced.
Yeah, I think so. It's but yeah, I think it's a big historical part to this as well, because of how we really did just empty the waters of Wales back in the day, and drove many of these great big whales almost to extinction. And that's just kind of makes the whole thing. That was horrible, that was just absolutely terrible. And I think that we kind of still carry the history of that with us a little bit, and that gives the idea of whaling a bit of a, it's just got a lot of bad rep, I guess. And also, you have what the Japanese are doing, where they go off in the on these research expeditions and hunt, endangered whales, and for what is clearly food production, and it's that's also no good. But the Mickey whale hunt, I support it.
Yeah, I mean that goes back to it's not. Yeah, interesting. I mean, I didn't actually know any about that. Like, okay, Norway's hunting minke. Like, what is the difference between the Norway whale hunt and what Japan is doing? I think culturally we think they're the same thing. Like pop culturally, everybody why is that different? But maybe it is different.
Yeah, it is that we don't hunt. That the minke whales are not at all in trouble. Least concern species. So, and that of course is very important.
So back to the orca situation. I think what I wanted to emphasize when we first started planning this episode is okay, you have this situation that there isn't consensus on. So it's an evolving thing that's only been around for the last 3 years, basically. But it also begs the question. Nikki and I were talking about this. The boats that have gotten rescued or whatever, it the way she put it, it's like it highlights a hole in their risk management plan because, like I said before, it's not just a whale that can cause damage to a rudder. And if you're doing an ocean passage, you need to be prepared for that. And it highlighted a hole in ours because we didn't have... I mean, you carry a Jordan Series drogue on Eastbjorn, which I guess could be modified to use for emergency steering, not with difficulty, but we didn't have that on Falken. So that was one of my goals, and I got at the boat show an emergency steering drogue for you and for Falken because it was this is something we should have had in the first place. And it just, at the very least, people that are never going to sail off the coast of Portugal can still take some of these lessons like, hey, do you have a plan if your rudder becomes disabled? And I bet most people don't. So if there's something that can universally come out of this, I think it's that. And then not just have it, but practice with it. There was a great... I can maybe dig this up and put it on the quarterdeck, but there's a great study that was done by a guy that owned a Swan 44 S&S, same vintage as Eastbjorn, where the boat was getting some work done on the rudder, and the rudder was out of the boat. And he said, "This is a great opportunity. I'm going to launch the boat without a rudder at all, and practice sailing and motoring with a drogue." And he wrote about it, how to optimize it, where to run the lines, how to set it up. And him and his crew became proficient enough at that that they decided they could sail on any point of sail in most conditions and happily steer the boat with a drogue, with no rudder at all. And
wow.
And that was
sail. Impressive.
Yeah, and that was enlightening. And I was like, so that's a skill that everyone should have, regardless of whether you're sailing in these orca hotspots or not. And that's kind of the conclusion from this is how do you bring this and apply it back to everyone? And that's it, I think.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's it is famously the number one reason why sailboats are being abandoned offshore is the loss of steering. So it's very, very wise to put some effort into learning how to deal with that. Your main strategy there of just avoiding the orcas. I'm curious, did you put in place any kind of extra lookout procedures, or did you? Because as you said, ideally you want to get out of the way of the orcas if they come. Did you ever do anything special to see them?
No, no. It was normal. I mean, we had dolphins and stuff, and it was weird because every time we saw dolphins, the first, sometimes you see it out of the corner of your eye, was that a dolphin or was that an orca fin? And you just normally it's just pure excitement, but now it's just okay, it's dolphins, we're good.
Horror.
Yeah. So no, we didn't do anything out of the ordinary. Just proceeded as usual. Just always had that in the back of your mind.
Cool. Yeah. Because I was thinking with with all of my orca finding skills that might also apply as orca avoidance skills, and I used to use radar quite a bit with success in finding orcas. But it really requires the water to be flat enough. But you can see the dorsal fins quite well on radar if it's
really
if the water's flat enough. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
I think the Norwegian sort of ecotype of orca is quite a lot bigger than what you got down there. But here the dorsal fins reach 2 meters of the males, of the adult males, so you can see them quite well. And then you have the hydrophones and stuff that you can also use, but they also only really work if your boat's stationary, so they wouldn't really help when you're out sailing. But
well, that's like we did that up in Svalbard. We put a hydrophone in amongst the pod of there was like 100 beluga whales, the white ones, and I mean they sound like a jungle forest when you put a hydrophone in with them. It's wild.
Yeah, it's fun. That was really fun.
But we got to give a quick shout out because, like, you talk about in Norway, you're actually seeking out the orcas and have this, relationship with them. Ben Doer, who wanted to join us on this podcast, and we shut him down because we had to do it in the morning, and he's in Seattle. He does the same in Pacific Northwest when they have families of orcas that they know and that they see regularly and that they interact with. And I think, not to take the words out of his mouth, but I think what he was going to say is like these are beautiful creatures that have personalities and like. What a cool thing to be a part of.
Yeah, very, very cool. And there is some. I do think the orcas kind of recognize humans as something more than just another animal. I think they're smart enough to see that. What I've seen a couple of times, which is really cool, when we've found these bait balls, which is the orcas kind of herd the herring into these balls of really tightly packed herring. And then they go in and they pluck them off after having kind of organized them into this ball. And if a swimmer kind of joins them, they'll join the hunting party in a way. So the orcas will let that person kind of guard that quadrant of the perimeter around the bait ball, and it's very cool how you can just tell that. They understand that this creature has an intelligence above the other things that they usually find in the ocean. That's
very
cool.
That's just like if we just for 2 seconds. I need to wrap this up then because we're getting close to the boatyard. But the fact that there exists mammals that live in the ocean, like how wild is that? Like these are air breathing creatures that live in the ocean. Like what the heck? Like how did that happen? Like that is just a wild fact of geology of ecology that we have mammals that breathe air but they live in the ocean.
It's
and have
very
intelligence.
Wild. Evolution took some really strange and weird detours to get to the whales. And the result is quite fascinating. It's true.
But let's wrap this up so I can go out and help the gang get the boat on the dock. But as usual, August, these are great conversations. I love doing this.
Yeah, this was fun. Thanks a lot. It's nice of you to find some time in between docking and unmooring Falken. It's pretty cool actually having done a podcast while you guys are on the move on the boat. So this is great.
Shout out to the team we have that allows this to be possible so that I can be down here while other things are happening. So Alex
Indeed.
and Adam, yeah. So we're doing this again next week. Do we have a topic yet for next week?
We don't, no. So
Okay.
if you have a great idea, do let us know. This it's Monday as we're recording this, Monday the 20th, and this podcast is going out on the airwaves tomorrow. So it's very much real time. So
Cool.
We'll see.
Great.
All right.
All right,
Thanks a lot,
Skipper.
Andy.
Talk to you next week.
See you later. Bye. Thank you very much for listening. If you want to join the Quarterdeck, go to quarterdeck.59-north.com. The Quarterdeck podcast is produced by August Sandberg for 59 North. Music is by the Storm Weather Shanty Choir.